Yes. Usually, when you go live, it doesn't let you turn the phone sideways, but we're having some success right now. 2 class, we rock. Cool. Do you want to start us off?
Sure. So I don't know. One thing that I've been wondering. So I suck at jujitsu. I would never do a professional fight, but my friend here has one coming up on Saturday. And so what we really wanted to jam about this morning is emotional intelligence, which is really how do you consciously and intelligently, I don't even want to say handle or deal with your emotions because that implies that they're bad or wrong, and I really don't think they are. But how do you embrace them? How do you use them to your advantage? So I want to know from you, leading up to this big fight, where tons of people are going to be there watching and supporting you, what's coming up for you?
That's a really good question. So a few things came up for me. I think, like, on one spectrum, you need to have mentors in your life. And Tim Ferriss talks about this a lot. Like, mentors. I think he gets a little lost in that sometimes. So he needs to work on, like, some solitude. But one thing for me is, like, having older men in my life that can coach me, that have been through it already, if that makes sense. And then I think at the same time, that helps older men have like a sense of newness being around younger guys. So it's a duality. I think like it's a beneficial mutual relationship when you have a mentor and then somebody who's being mentored, but they both help one another at the same time, if that makes sense. Another thing for me is being alone by myself. It's like, I feel like it's so hard to meditate even for 5 minutes. I remember when I first started meditating, I couldn't even sit down for a minute because my head was just racing.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, this is too much. I have to get up and clean or do something and distract myself. But I think the problem is that like, it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to, I was just talking about this to the kids the other day because it was like Brady or somebody in there, and he was like looking around, and his eyes were like kind of going crazy. And I empathize with him because I'm like, look, it's putting yourself in a vulnerable position when your eyes are closed, when you're meditating, when you're not talking, you know. And in order for that to happen, you have to trust the space that you're around. And if you can't trust the space that you're around, you can't meditate. So therefore, it's like creativity and trust goes hand in hand. So for me, I need to find places that I can trust, and then I think that's where everything unfolds from there.
That makes so much sense. I can remember when I started meditating, I always wanted to keep my eyes open. Mm-hmm. It gave me a lot of sense of control and security. While I was doing something that I felt very out of control and not secure. And I remember one of my mentors came up to me and she just put her hand on my shoulder and she just really gently said, she goes, close your eyes, you'll see more. And it was so true. It just, all of a sudden, like really taking that journey within. And that's really, you know, that's the hero's journey. And we've seen it, you know, in Joseph Campbell's work and all the mythical tales. You know, what is the deal? There's somebody they're persecuted against. They have some challenge, some dragon they have to go fight. You know, they wage this war and they come out victorious. And it's all really a metaphor for the internal war, which we're battling against ourselves, against our own demons, against the things that keep us asleep, that keep us out of our power, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, being able to do it for 1 minute, for 5 minutes, you know, and I think too, there's so many myths about meditation that there's a right and a wrong way to do it. But it's like, just do it. Just sit down. Just be with yourself. Watch what comes up. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, depression is suppression. You know, when we're not willing to feel, you know, that's when we start experiencing all these really negative consequences. And you just look at our world with porn and drugs and, you know, all these different ways that we're just constantly trying to escape ourselves. And, you know, everything in moderation for sure. But when we're just reaching for anything that's going to get us out of ourselves and distract ourselves, you know, we really miss that treasure within. And that's what's cool, is you can hear as you talk about it that that's what you're finding, you know?
Yeah, totally. And one of the things about Joseph Campbell's work is that he talks about the hero's journey, and he literally writes out the whole journey of every hero that we've ever seen and grown to love. So from Hercules to all the mythological creatures or heroes or like gods, they all have a story, and usually it goes like they're going through some battles, internal battles or physical. They usually leave and they journey out into solitude, right? Look at all of the greats who've ever done it. Like, what is it? Buddha. Who do we talk about? Buddha, Jesus, Allah, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. All of those people have had some form of solitude going in, internal work. And then they bring their work outside. But they have mentors along the way. They have these guides, these entities, whatever you want to call them, that help them develop their heart and develop their sense of self-awareness, so they can offer that back to people. And I think what's so critical is to work through emotions. Like, there's a time and place where we need to shut down. Like, I was looking at the statue of a bear the other day, and this bear was just sleeping like this. And he just looked like he had the deepest rest of his life. And I'm like, when do humans do that? When do we get to do that? I feel like the mainstream society doesn't allow us to do that. You know, like, we have bills to pay, we have to work every day, and then when the weekend comes, it's like, party! Or do something, like cram everything into the weekend, because during the week you're grinding. So it's like finding the time to sleep and do nothing. Turn off phones when you need to turn off the phones. And then also work through the emotions. I'm sure, like, whenever you watch my videos, you see that my voice is like somewhat choppy, or I'm a little bit like shaky, but I'm actively working through that emotion. And it's the emotion of doubt, of fear, of rejection, of people not watching the video, of whatever. So I think it's a combination of actively working through, and then actively setting the intention of rest, do nothing, sleep.
Yeah, I mean, just even going back to depression, that's kind of the way we look at it, is deep rest. That's what we need. We need time. It's just like an infant, you know, when they're struggling, they've just come into this world. You know, what do we do when there's a problem with a newborn baby? We put them in an incubator, you know, and I think adults, we need them too. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sensory deprivation.
Yes, I was just going to say that. Like, that's what the float tank is, you know, or whatever. But, you know, and I know for you, you've done a lot of work recently where you've just really let yourself feel these feelings, you know, that are inevitably going to come up during a fight, especially one that so many people are watching. Mm-hmm. And again, it's that idea, you got to feel it to heal it. And so, you know, we talk about surrender and letting go, and I can remember, I mean, not that I've mastered that by any means, but I didn't even know what that meant for a long time. And then I realized it really means breathing in to the emotion and allowing it. You know, you don't need to become it. Like, we get in trouble when we become our anger. But this idea that, like, I don't have to run from something, that I can open my heart to it. Tara Brach, the Buddhist meditation teacher, mm-hmm. She talks about this idea all the time of meeting your edge and softening. Like those edges where we just bump up and we're like, nope, I'm going to close my heart. Nope, I'm going to disappear. Nope, I'm going to distract. Like, I can't handle this. So it's meeting the very edge of your beingness and softening into it, opening into it, allowing it, you know. Somebody really does something and this causes an intense amount of pain, you know. Being with that pain, allowing it, healing it, nurturing yourself, caring for it instead of nope, you know,
stuffing it down.
Yeah,
I think we learn in different ways, meaning, like, I listened to the audiobook of The Body Keeps the Score, and then I also read it. So now that I'm reading it, I'm getting like 20 different things that I overlooked or just I didn't really take in through the ears. And one of the things that I came across the other day, last night actually, I was drinking some reishi tea, chilling out with this book, and another way that I'm trying to get calm is reading, by the way. And I read in here that we have guides within ourselves, within our mind, and in our psyche. We have, it's almost like multiple personality disorder, but on a lower spectrum. So like we can judge somebody who has like outward multiple personality disorder, but everybody has that on the inside. Everybody. Like you have the guilt, the shame, the happiness, the energetic person, the person who wants to love, the person who wants to hate, the person who wants to cry, the person who wants to laugh. So with all these different polarities, there's certain strengths and certain downfalls to it. Meaning like if you were shamed for something like as a kid, you're going to build up a big ego to protect that. So there's like this guide coming up and it's protecting it. So for me, that guide might be fighting, learning how to fight, right? For somebody else lifting weights, their guide might be steroids and developing this body where nobody's going to mess with them again. And the counselor actually said, the guy who wrote the book, he said a lot of his men that he went to see or saw him were in the military, super buffed out, juiced out, were at the gym every single day, looked like they had their shit together. And then when they trusted him, they revealed like their inner child, which was really distraught, fearful, withdrawn, felt betrayed, abandoned, all of these things. But like unless you bring those up, you don't really know that they're there because they're so stuffed down. This is really deep right now and like really real. But unless you bring them up, you don't know that they're there. And it's like, my question was throughout my whole life was like, okay, well, if that's the case, how do you work on it? Like, what's the simple 1, 2, 3? How can I just work on it? Because I think that's the part of like my masculine side. Like, let me just do this. Let me just work on it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, let's just do this. So one other thing for anger, when I'm chilling at the hot springs, I'll get my jaw, my lower jaw, and I'll push it out. This is a bioenergetic exercise here. So there's a lot of anger stored in the jaw, right? One hand here, one fist here, and then you grind it out. And then you could even make the anger sounds like, or like grunting or yelling. But you probably don't want to do this around like neighbors or something because they're going to think you're like going psychotic. But you can work it out. You could work out your tension here. You could work it out. And I've been doing a lot of those bioenergetic exercises. And you'll see me doing that before the fight. Like, you'll see me doing this before the fight. You'll see me jumping up and down to ground myself down, to get out of my head. You'll see me tapping, right, a lot here. And it's funny because I was at the hot springs, I was at the sauna, and before that lady walked in, I was doing this. And it's kind of like rapid eye movement. Mm-hmm. And I felt like a disassociation with my thoughts. Meaning like I was visualizing how the fight was going to go in the sauna, and I was just doing this. But like there was no nervousness around it. There was nothing. There was nothing. I was just tapping. I was just anchoring myself down, and I was like, holy shit, what's happening here? And then this lady walked in, and we had like a 30-minute conversation about everything that there is to talk about. And she helped me lose like 5 pounds in there, so I'm like right on weight. If you're watching this, thank you.
Well, and I love what you said about just, I was able to create space. You know, there's an excellent book, Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, where he talks about allowing the emotion to pass through us, you know, instead of latching onto it. And this is mindfulness. This is everything that we're trying to learn, is to be able to become the observer. Like, instead of becoming my anger, I can witness my anger and let it pass. I know for men, a lot of times it passes this way. For women, a lot of times it passes this way.
What do you mean by that?
So if I am the person that goes, I am angry, if I can observe my anger, then I'm no longer my anger. I've created space. I am witnessing the anger within me. Where we get into trouble is when I'm just angry, because then I'm reactive. Then my anger is dictating and it's triggering my trauma response. It's, you know, all those little pieces that have been developed to protect you. Now it's like, if I have a thorn in my arm and you brush it, that hurts. I'm going to have an automatic way of responding to it. So this idea of becoming the observer, I can sit there and go, wow, I am feeling anger, and that's how I create this space to allow it to move instead of latching on, holding it, and then it gets shoved down.
Right.
Or then I do something out of anger, which creates more karma for me.
Right.
Now I've just created a whole new, I've given life to this thing. And anger is just an emotion. Emotions are just messages. If I'm angry, it's like what needs to be protected. If I can sit there and go within, wow, that just hit that. That triggered that. Now I can let it pass, you know?
Yeah.
All of those different things. It's like when I become the observer of myself, I have therefore mastered it, you know? And you can just see it when you've really done it well, when somebody's attacked you, hurt you, and you've been able to hold space and just been like, wow, I'm not responsible for this, or this isn't mine. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm not going to lash out. When I am the observer, I've created enough space for it to be able to move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful. I'm still working with this one, passing here and then letting it pass here.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. One thing that came up for me the other day, and it's funny that you say like observing. I remember Eckhart Tolle talking about this. He's like, you need to observe your emotions on a park bench or something like that. And he was talking about the concept of observing yourself. So not being like, I think it's not being subjective, right? Like you're not being subjective. Like this is my experience and I need to hold on to this, but rather like, okay, what, like if somebody was watching from a third person perspective, like out here, what would they be seeing right now that's going on in my mind? And it's funny because something was going on the other day and I felt all of these emotions coming up and somebody said, I love you, bro, like out loud. And it hit me. I like got hit by it and I'm just like, whoa, like what was that? And I did it from an objective place. Like at first it was subjective, but then it was objective, and I'm like, why did that bother me so much? Because it was just a friend that said that, you know. But I'm like, why did that bother me really? And I think there's like when we had this pain body attack, which is another Eckhart Tolle concept. It's like these emotions that come up and take over your body,
hijack you.
Yeah, and then when something like good comes in, it's like I wasn't ready to receive that. I'm like my body was like the physiology was not ready to receive those words of affirmation, that love. And I think this goes hand in hand with like relationships and partners and whatnot. Like I went home the other day and I was just complaining nonstop about the shirts that went wrong. I made a whole video about this the other day. You guys probably watched it, or not. If you haven't, go back and watch it. It's cool. But I was complaining to Deb about these shirts. I'm like, what the, like, you know, they made all these mistakes and like I'm kind of OCD about some stuff, you know, and I want things to just be done right the first time, and like that's it. But like I think when you start getting in positions of like power, they're never going to be done right the first time. You have to say it over and over and over, and then once you do that, say it 10 more times before somebody starts to get it, you know. And I'm starting to see that now, especially like because I have people working for me that I'm paying, that are working under me, and it's something that's interesting because I never had that before. I was never like in that position to afford people working on my social media or people working on the shirts that I'm trying to produce. So now that that's happening, all of these different things are coming up in terms of like business emotions, because I think that there's different levels of emotional intelligence. Like I think the first one is like you got to tame yourself. You got to tame the lion within. And then the second one is like, okay, how can I live in this outside world, and how can I create like boundaries and space for me to feel trust? And then it's like, okay, how can I thrive and not just like survive or cope anymore? How can I thrive and make money, build a business, have resources where I can share with other people and help people from the ground up? Like my whole premise is like everybody should be able to afford martial arts training. Poor people, rich people, it shouldn't be catered to any one kind of people. And that's just my thing. It's like, and Tupac was an advocate of that. That's why I'm a big fan of Tupac. Like he was so rich, but he realized like he couldn't even live in the poor because they would try to steal from him, you know? So he realized like we need to help them, we need to feed them, we need to give them housing, we need to give them clothing, we need to provide opportunities that they typically don't have. So like that's my thing, is there's different emotional intelligent levels levels to it.
Totally.
Drake song.
Well, and I think one thing too, just kind of to wrap it up in closing, is like one of the most powerful things I ever learned is your emotions can feel real, but that doesn't mean they're true. Like, real freedom is knowing that you don't have to believe your emotions. They're messages, they're there to support and love you, but like, you get to choose. You know, choice is freedom. So I think too, just to wrap it up, because I know we've been going for a while, why don't you tell people how they can come and support you and watch your fight?
So I have 2 more tickets left. Brittany Wade, I don't know if you're still getting those.
Love you,
or,
Brittany.
if you're watching this, but if you are, we need to figure that out. Or if not, I have 2 tickets available. If you want to buy from me on hand, you could do that. Or you could go sign up. There's a link in my Facebook, and you just click that link, scroll down a little bit. I'll post it again. I'll repost it on this page and on my Chris Rios page, because there's my business page and my personal one. So you can sign up and watch it either online at flowgrappling.com or in person, and it's like $40 for general admission. So yeah, it's gonna be really fun. This fight is so different because I feel like all of my other fights that I've been in have been based around scarcity and fear. And how I prepared was just how everybody else prepared. Spitting in bottles, chewing gum, sweating in a sauna, kind of just being stressed out, you know. But now I feel that I'm ready to receive. I feel abundant. I feel like I just want to share myself with everybody watching and have fun in the process.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Have
Alrighty,
a great
guys.
weekend.
Have a great Friday. Peace.